Hey everybody, welcome to the IronTrap podcast and video and audio format. We do these every other week.
Yep.
This particular one is an audio only. So if you are consuming this on your favorite podcast format, make sure you check out our YouTube on the every other week.
Yes.
We also have this, I'm rambling, but this is... we have a video format also.
Yeah. Also, just check out, there'll be a non-podcast video today on YouTube. So if you head there, there's probably a video about Matt chopping the 39 Merc again.
Might be. Yeah, we're really drawing out this making people angry.
Series number 4 or episode 4.
But people don't seem to be as angry as we had thought. Maybe they're just, I don't know.
We've been talking about it for a while, but also I think, I don't know, people got way more upset over that 32 for some weird reason.
I don't know why.
It's very odd.
So yeah, that's going pretty well. We've been this week. I actually got all the main pieces for the roof made, and I just got to weld the sail panels to the main rear roof section. I know it's confusing, but I'm basically making the whole back half of the roof from scratch versus other than the rear window opening. So there'll be some videos on that. I'm excited to get over the hump.
Yeah.
We got a Columbia dropped off for the car today. One of our local friends, George, learned from another older fellow that was doing Columbias this area. So mine was the first one. He had that guy, I think he's in his 90s, kind of stand next to him as he was doing it. And he just got it done and dropped it off. So I'm super psyched because that was always the dream for that car, was chop it, customize it, all around, put a Columbia in it,
What's funny
interior and drive it.
Steve and I kind of bullied Matt into using that specific Columbia for that car because that was originally for the sedan delivery.
It went back and forth. It was for that car. Then we got the sedan delivery, and I want to put one in the sedan delivery. I'm like, we'll just use it in that. And then we just gave him parts to do another Columbia as he was leaving.
Yep.
And we're just like looking at the one on the floor, and you're both just like, why?
We got to lower the Merc more, so we got to take the rear out of it anyway. So why don't we just kill two birds with one stone and just slap it in?
So apparently I'm going to be working on the Mercury all winter.
Yes.
Is what
Steve will be too. He'll be doing all kinds of stuff.
So a lot of fun. But I think that's it. Mike's got the pre-order T-shirts.
Yes.
Our first design. He got them all packaged up today.
Yeah, they all went out today. This is today. We're recording this 2 days before the podcast comes out. So this is, they all left Friday. Hopefully they make it to you before Christmas. But like we said, no guarantees.
No guarantees.
There are some we ordered extra for shipping mishaps or that kind of stuff. So probably after the new year, whatever we have left will go back up on the website as a physical shirt that we will ship right away. We're not reprinting them right now. So once they're out, they're out.
It might be years.
Yeah.
So.
If we make an announcement that they're up on the website, don't screw around and wait. Just go there and order one if you really want one. So
because a bunch of people missed out on the pre-order and hit us up, and it's like
I can't guarantee quantities either. We're all going to grab some shirts. Some of our really close friends wanted some shirts. So
my dad wants like 6 shirts.
Yeah, he needs some extras. So there'll be whatever's left over, and it's first come, first serve. So
should be good. And we got the we mentioned in one of the podcasts, the last podcast, about the new design.
Yep.
Which you've flashed up, and we had a lot of interest in that. So again, that'll be in the spring, right around mid to late April.
Yep.
We'll actually be putting them out.
Probably
hopefully.
March, so we can have them in time for Carlisle.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. They'll physically be in people's hands. So anyways, that's what we got going on. We're trying to, now that everything with the new building is passed for the most part, we can get back to, we were doing this before, having new shirt designs out and trying to get some fun stuff going on, interactive. So today's topic is timely because it's now fully winter.
Yeah.
If you get winter in the United States or anywhere in the world, you're not in Australia, it's getting warm.
Yeah, it's summertime there.
But anywhere else, we've all got going into our winter routine for us, which I actually really look forward to these days because I have a ton of fun in the summer and the warm months driving the cars and swap meets and visiting everybody. It's just a lot of fun. But also as fall comes after Hershey, I used to get really sad because it was like, oh man, it's winter time. And I know
All the cool events are done and over with.
yeah, and you're just like the impending winter is coming. But now I actually get excited because I'm like, all summer I'm like, all right, this winter I'm gonna do this to this car, or this project we're gonna start. Like this year, I knew I was gonna tackle the Mercury this winter, so I was really looking forward to after Hershey. Like, all right, we're gonna get a few things knocked out, and we're gonna get on the Mercury, and I've been waiting to do that. So it's a lot of fun. But a lot of our friends, and we hear a lot of people on social media talking about being bummed about winter, or not being able to stay motivated because it's cold out. So we thought we would do a podcast on kind of like our top 5 tips or things that keeps us motivated, me specifically, especially because I've always been really good at staying motivated and juggling 18 projects.
As long as I've known you, you've had more than one car project.
Always,
more than 3 or 4 car projects going at one time.
More than healthy.
Yes.
But
more than garage space, actually.
Yeah. So we always have people that stop by, and that's one, or that we meet in person. That's one thing that I think we get comments. One of the most popular things or comment is people go, I don't know how you juggle. Even my father to this day, and I've been this way my whole life. He's like, I don't know how you juggle so many projects.
The thought goes through my head quite often.
And insanity makes me sane.
Yeah,
that's a way to.
That's what a crazy person would say.
Yes. So. We thought we would discuss like a kind of top 5 things that help keep motivated. And if you're listening to this and it's wintertime or you listening to this and you got a project that you haven't touched in way too long, maybe some of these things will help you. And we talk about 1 or 2 of these, especially one of them. Our number one thing we talk about. I say it in videos all the time. It's one of my it's become one of my taglines. Excuse me. So.
We have to make a shirt or a sticker about it. You say it so often.
Yeah, people have asked for that. So my number one thing is small victories. I say it a lot. And basically what it is setting a goal and sticking to it is what I try and... At this point for me, I don't need to set a goal. It is just ingrained in my brain and just how I am. But if you're trying to get motivated in the wintertime or at all... setting a goal, sticking to it, doing whatever your goal is. And I know a lot of times people will talk about like, oh, well, if we could do this full time, blah, blah, blah. Well, remember, I worked most of my life. I worked a normal job. So this is the same thing I would do. Set a goal, stick to it. Do one thing a day, a week, a month to your project or projects, whatever it is. And this can be related to house stuff, life, anything. It's creating those good habits.
Yes,
is probably the best thing you can do. So I'm not very good with house projects with that stuff. My habits aren't as good with doing house projects, but Mike's much better at house project habits than
we're opposite. I'm very good with house projects, but very bad with car projects, and you're the opposite.
Yeah. So, but with with the car stuff, it's like pick a 1 day a week that you're going to go out and work on your, ideally if you can do multiple days a week or every night, even if it's like every night you go out and work on something for an hour or 2, instead of watching TV or scrolling the internet, those little things add up over time. Or some people it works better with picking a day. It's like, I'm going to spend every Saturday during the winter, and I'm going to just lock myself in the shop and get something done.
And even if you do spend an hour a day, even if it's just going out and just cleaning up, so you have a nice clean workspace to look at, to keep yourself focused. Because I deal with that all the time. I'm a pig. I'm very...
Me too.
When I work on stuff, there's just stuff everywhere. So that when I go back out and it's clean and organized and I can focus instead of 20 minutes looking for a screwdriver... Yeah, it makes your life way easier.
Yeah, I've been trying to be a lot better about that. And even with the 3 of us now all being here all the time, I'm trying to even be more particular about that because it gets out of control quickly.
I get yelled at a lot.
And Steve and Mike occasionally do get yelled at because I'm like, what the hell did I tell you guys?
Put your tools away.
Yeah. why did this tool make its way over to here? But like for me, even like with chopping this mercury lately for the past like 3 weeks on and on, basically. I've been trying to like, as I made it past a step, I got the sail panels made. That day I like stopped, or if I could do it at the end of every week or every couple days, I go through and just like end of yesterday and this morning was a good example. I cleaned up a lot of my stuff and my tools and put them on my cart. This morning I went out to the shop a little early and swept up and picked up all my random pieces of metal and just threw them on a pile. And then it's like, so now like this weekend, if I work on the car, I can walk out in the shop and it's clean and you're not tripping over stuff and whatever.
It's a good reset just to mentally clean up and put things back where they belong.
Right. But the one thing a day, a week, a month, whatever it is, just try and get something done. And even if it's like you're breaking up the not fun stuff. So if you know you got to do the brakes on your car and you're not looking forward to it because you got to take apart. I'm saying brakes to Steve's working on Pete's car right now. It's like, you just get the front brakes apart this time and get them cleaned up. And then next time when you start, you're going to be putting it back together. It's way more fun to reassemble a clean, if that's how it works for you. I try and just break it up into big chunks of getting things done myself, but that's just what works for me. But I think the one thing a week, a month, if you can get that habit, you're going to see yourself getting a lot more done. And that's really the key for me to being motivated is and kind of holding yourself accountable is also important. So if you tell yourself, I'm going to get the brakes apart on this thing today, get them apart. Don't find an excuse to, turn your phone off. Don't midstream be scrolling the internet. So I even though I'm on social media or on the internet a lot more than I'd like to be sometimes, when I'm in the shop, a lot of times my friends know I don't answer from 9 to 4. I might lunchtime check, but I don't really look at my phone all day. I play music and I leave it on the bandsaw or by one of the cars by the door, and I don't walk near. So
it's always funny when customers call. They're like, "Is Matt there?" I'm like, "He's in the shop working." Can I talk to him? No. What do you need? That's why I'm answering the phone.
Yes.
How can I help you?
I like to talk to people, but I would never get anything done, and that's why when people email or call and ask about visiting, for the most part, I only allow Sundays by appointment only because we already have enough problem with our close friends and the older car guys in the area that just pop in, which I don't mind. But there are days when they come and you're just like, ugh, I'm in the middle of something. But you try and be polite and stop and talk to them. And sometimes it's hours or half a day or a whole day. And, so we try not to. And even our friend Pete and our friend Nick was over today. And it was like, they were going to come yesterday. And I actually was like, no, I'm trying to get something done. As rude as I feel, even though it's not rude, I'm like, come Friday. So that's what today was, is hanging out and now doing a podcast. So that's number one. Number two is something I should do more. I know during the summer I do it a little bit more than I do in the winter, but visiting friends' shops or projects. Yeah. I'm lucky enough that I probably get a lot of visits from people that are doing it for the same reason. You
could also just look at a different project. You don't have to get inspiration for visiting other people. You just come up here and look around.
Yeah, but it is neat to visit other people's their little workspace or little slice of heaven, as I call it, your sanctuary for your shop or garage. But I think it's good to just go and visit buddies because I know I appreciate it. For sure when people come and visit because it's just fun to have different people. Lately with the Mercury, it's been a lot of visitors because people hear you're doing something major or you get a new project, you get a lot of influx of visitors. But I find myself getting stuck in like just this routine of going to the shop, working all day, coming inside, eating, going to bed, starting all over. And when I worked a day job, it was like work the day job, come home, eat dinner, work in the shop all night, go to bed, and you start that. So just doing that routine, you stare at your own projects and it's like, if you can get out, see what another person's doing. I know for me, like I used to go and help or visit friends that did much higher level work than I did. So
that's how I feel when I come here every day. I'm visit a friend that does much higher quality work.
Right, but you're getting used to the
Yeah.
seeing whatever. So like uh, Phillips Hot Rods is a local guy that I became friendly with, Mike Phillips. And when I worked at Eastwood and didn't have a big shop, I just had a 2-car garage and whatever, and it wasn't heated real well. Like in the winters, I started going like I don't know what it was, Wednesday nights. I would get done at Eastwood, go home, feed the dogs, and hang out with them for a bit, and then I'd go right to his place, and I'd work there with him till like midnight because he works crazy hours. But like it was so inspiring doing that once a week because he was doing high level metal shaping that was way beyond what I was or am currently doing. But it was like it just gets you excited because you use tools that somebody else has that you don't have access to, and you work on another project or help a buddy for a day or just see what they're doing, and you're like motivated to do better or do more or whatever. So, if a friend just got some kind of hot engine running in their hot rod, just going to see their car start and run.
Or even like you did, there's always, I'm sure there's hot rod shops in anyone's area that would take help in the evenings. Obviously it's probably not going to be paid, but you're just volunteering your time to learn and just help, and that help you motivate, and you learn another skill probably, or advance your skill in whatever you're helping with.
For sure. I definitely, going to Mike's shop very much so helped motivate, or helped me excel with my level of work. And a lot of it was even just like stupid stuff. There was like I'll never forget like the way he trimmed a panel to butt weld 2 pieces together, like with the tin snips, and the way I was like rough cutting with a cutoff grinder trying to hold it to a line, and I never got the panels to line up as nice as I would like. And it was like scribing it with a sharp scribe, rough cutting it maybe with a shear, but then hand cutting it with hand shears or tin snips on a sharp scribe line. It was like all of a sudden the panels fit. And I remember that, like seeing him do that was just like, that was worth that whole day of, or evening of doing that. Because it was like, I do that on every panel now. And it's like, now you can make your stuff fit so much better. So that was just, just coming and hanging out, bringing an iced tea or bringing some Wawa or, for us Wawa, but, whatever, pizza, whatever. It's very, very, it's good. And we have friends that do that. Like on Sundays, I have friends that come over, and used to be a lot more years ago, but like I still have friends that come over and they'll just bring a coffee and they want to hang out all day and just help on whatever I'm working on because they want to just learn. And it's good to, I think to pass the complete circle. Now I'm doing the same for people that Mike and some other people were doing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really cool. So that's, I don't know. I think we're the recipient of visitors quite often.
Yeah,
for that
we're
reason.
mostly on the other end of it
These days, but that's just because I work way too much.
And we also do it when we travel. We do visit shops. True. We're doing it more in the summertime and when we travel on these trips because we'll stop in and visit friends, or like the the Grand National Roadster shows coming up, and we visit, a dozen shops while we're out there, and we're always standing and looking at the projects, and some have historic cars that we're looking at just to get motivation from.
Yeah, out there it's definitely like the Walden Speed Shop has their open house, and I know going to Grand National, even when I was going by myself years ago, was like that was like the most exciting thing. And going to the Grand National show was cool, but like going to the Walden shop was life changing for me because it's like you get to go and see.
Hopefully, we get to do that this year.
Yeah,
last year we missed it.
We did. Yeah,
we had to fly somewhere to buy some stuff.
Buy a bunch of speed equipment last minute, but going to his shop and seeing that ridiculously high level, high quality hot rod builds and metal shaping and work and tools and just a cool place.
Yeah.
It's like, that was so cool, and that every time I go to a shop like that or see that quality of work, it makes me want to do better work than I can do now. So that's super motivating. And that's probably helpful if you're stuck on a project, and you're maybe doing patch panels and you're just not happy with how they're going. Going to visit a buddy that does better work. And, there's been times over the years that I've gone and visited, I went and visited Nate Lagler.
Oh, yeah.
When I was building the free T, I was trying to build the door skins from scratch. And it was the first time I ever built anything that complex or, integral in the body. and I couldn't get the door to do what I wanted it to do. And I remember I just went and visited him and spent most of the time just looking at what he was doing and being inspired. And at the end, hey, you got 5 minutes. Here's this piece I'm having trouble with. What am I doing wrong? And he's just like, of course, when you're at that high level of work, he's just like, oh, you just need to stretch here or do whatever it was. I don't remember anymore. And I'm like, he said 3 sentences and it gave me enough information to be like, let me go remake this and make it better. So, I've been doing that for years, just, trying not to go there with the intentions that I want to take up 3 hours of his time asking for information, more just going to visit, see what they're doing, get inspired, and hey, you got 5 minutes, this piece here, what do you think I should do? And that's been really helpful for me.
Going to his shop's always inspiring. It's crazy.
Yeah, any of these guys are doing real. I always say that, like, anyone that's at the top of their craft, you have to be a little off in a good way.
Yeah.
Mike Phillips is the same way. These are just local guys that are very talented metal shapers and fabricators. It's like any of these guys, it's just like they're a little broken in the head. Like just the hours they work, the way it's like, to me, it's like any artist that's like even if it's fine artist or, pinstripe or whatever, you just think back to all those years of the greats of anything like that. They're like a different breed.
Yeah,
you're
definitely.
Just like, you look at Von Dutch. It's like just crazy, that's like the extremist version of it, but just like that's just a different person, so it's like any real high level metal shapers or coach builders I've ever met or seen or taking classes from, you're like, this dude's a little.
I'm sure people say that about you, juggling 19 car projects at once.
Yeah.
You're not that crazy though.
I am a little crazy, but and there's definitely like a social awkwardness aspect about it. Most of those guys I've met or been to their shops, it's like it's like a one-man shop, maybe 2 guys, and they work crazy hours, and they're really they don't go anywhere. They just sleep, eat, like
work,
metal shaping or coach building or chassis building, whatever, TIG welding, and it's like that's the only way you can get to that extreme high level of work is devoting your whole entire life. Brain.
That's like a sports athlete.
True.
If they didn't have cameras shoved in their face, they had to talk, they'd probably be socially awkward too, because they spend their whole time just literally playing the sport.
Yeah,
so it's not much different.
Living, eating. Yeah. So a weightlifter.
Yeah,
that's a good example of a sport where it's like all you do is live your life around bodybuilding.
Yeah,
and it's like eating everything, and to get to the highest form of that, you got to be dedicated boxer, any of that stuff. So that's but it's fun to go visit and see somebody that's that dedicated in their craft. Is highly motivating. So it's been a little while since I've been able to do that.
Yeah.
And I'd love to, California is probably one of the easy ways because not all these people just open their shops.
Yeah.
You gotta, any of those guys I'm mentioning, it's not just like you can walk in any day of the week. I became friendly with them and they respected us enough that we were allowed to come into their space and visit. So really cool. So number 3 is, and I talk about this in videos too, like if you're stuck on something on a car or you're not feeling motivated, or you're dreading a portion of a project, try and do something fun to break it up. And I talk about that. You see it in the videos, actually. I talk about it all the time. It's like, okay, well, we just got this, like, we did all the exhaust system, and it's not fun. It's satisfying, but it's just not, it's a tedious job. All right, we're going to jump over and let's do this fun thing. We're going to, put some different headlights on it because it's easy, fun stuff. So I think that's important. I mean, you were struggling with some of that with your project.
Yes. I mean, I went through it multiple times on that thing, especially like building the body from scratch. Like just putting it all together was so time consuming. And then I think while I was on the frame table, we did the rear frame kick up on it. So it was like we did all this terrible stuff that I had no fun in doing whatsoever. It looked cool because it's a car. But it's like I just dreaded doing any of it. Then we're like, let's do the rear frame kick up and do something that's a little bit more fun and is more appeasing to the eye at the end, because it's like, oh, look at this little custom touch that we added versus like we hung the door today. That's difficult, and you spend like a whole day or two just getting the doors to sort of fit the body, and it's like, and with that thing, it was like we got the doors to fit, and now this doesn't fit because it's just this floppy, rough mess, and now it's more solid, and I I need to get back. I need to use your advice and spend an hour on it every now and then because I haven't touched it. It's been parked up here for a couple weeks and I haven't touched it.
Gotta get that windshield done.
I know.
That's been on your to-do list
for a couple months. Don't want to talk about it.
But yeah, I think that's finding the fun stuff to do on your project. So that's
and it ties back into the, finding the motivation, just changing the way the car looks remotivates you to get back into it because it's reignites that fire, as lame as that sounds.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Or like you got to, you polish the hubcaps that you're going to be running on it. And maybe you're not going to leave them on in a dirty shop to get messed up all the time. But like polish a set of hubcaps and you clip them on, you stand back. Oh, man, this is
some of the best things is when you do something that's fun, you push the car outside and just stand. We did that with the Merc yesterday.
Yeah.
Just pushed it outside and stood there and looked at it for 5 minutes. It's more fun in the summer when you could sit down and eat lunch at a table and stare at it for an hour. But when it's cold, 10, 15 minutes staring at it outside makes a world of difference.
Yeah, we just in the this past summer at the shop, we have like this holly tree that's on my property, and we push cars kind of out there. And this summer, we went so far as I went and got a little like brunch table, whatever, picnic. Yeah. Just a little round table with 2 folding chairs and set it under this tree because when it's hot out in the summer, a lot of times Steve and I, like when we get something done for years now, we'll push the car out to where we can sit there. Yeah. And he and I will just sit there and eat lunch. Steve will smoke a cigar and we just look at the car and discuss whatever, So we did it yesterday with the Mercury, but we were like rolled outside, walked around, it took a few photos. Okay, that's good. It's 30 degrees.
Cold. It's cold.
Let's go back in the shop. But that is just like, that's so satisfying to roll a car outside and just look at it or mock the car up at the end of the, time you're working on it. And just, even if you just like get some panel clamps and clamp the stuff roughly in place and you just go, oh man, that's going to be cool. That's that small little, just spend a day mocking stuff up for fun. Lay the wheels next to the car with the hubcaps and just stand back. Like you're not getting something done specifically, but you're now getting yourself motivated by just doing whatever that little thing is. So that's a huge one for me is doing those little easy jobs to make it satisfying in between that. So
to get over the big hurdles.
Yeah, the Mercury's been tough because now that we're 3 weeks into it, there's not really like a quick, easy thing I can do at this point. There's a lot of just making panels, but I've still been like, I just clean the one, I got the one side kind of built, and it's like you just Cleco it in place and clean it all off at the end of the day and just stand back at that 3/4 view and you're like, oh yeah, I know the panel's not shaped enough, but man, that's cool. And I usually find myself, I take photos at the end of, when I'm in a big project like this, end of each day, and then at night, watching TV, before bed, eating dinner, I'll just look at those photos and zoom in on my own work and photos, and sometimes it's maddening and I find things I don't like, but sometimes it's just like, okay, yeah, that's cool. That's going in the right way. I can't wait to start on that part tomorrow, and get the other side built. So that's all part of that is fun stuff, quote unquote. So number 4 is like inspiration photos,
and you're kind of doing it now also because you could photos, videos, YouTube.
Yeah, content in general, I should say. Yeah, that's so, but I like to, the one little thing I like to do in that broad idea is and I do that. I have it in my phone. We're lucky enough with cell phones these days, you can store a lot of photos. So I have a lot of albums in my phone for all my different like project cars or potential project cars. And like the Mercury, we're talking about that a lot because I'm working on it right now. But like the Mercury since 2020 when I bought it, I just kept saving photos of Mercs that were chopped the way I liked it, or I was saving a lot of like in progress photos that guys were putting on social media of little things I liked. I liked the way the guy, cut this here or stretched this or did whatever. And I had this huge album, and then
I didn't know that. I've always wondered how you found reference photos so quickly. I didn't realize you had them organized in folders.
I have a Lincoln Continental one.
That's
I have
funny.
a 32.3 window. I have like all these different folders, and some of them are just inspiration. So like I'll save a historic car photo that I find on the internet and like just save it in my thing. It's like, okay, these are the vibe I'm going for. But then some of them are like specifically reference photos of like how they cut it or whatever. And then leading up to doing the Merc, like a week or two beforehand, I was looking really in depth at all those in progress photos, and I'm like, okay, I like how the guy cut this. Oh, they made this little panel here. I really like that, or I don't like that, or that's a little more work than I want to do for that small change. And it's helpful during the process also to look back at, like cars I like. I've actually now doing the Merc, I'm like scrolling back to some of the cars that are done that I like, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's can't wait for mine to look like that, and thinking ahead to the next thing. So like the Mercury, I'm doing the roof, I'm thinking ahead of like, all right, what taillights do I want to do? And I'm going back to those finished photos, inspiration photos. Oh, what's that guy got for a taillight? What did this car run? And then now I'm already thinking ahead to those next steps, and it keeps you excited. So it might help you push through. But I mean, you're saying about content. That's probably
I mean, nowadays it's such an easy way to look at how other people are doing things. There's a million, especially now, there's so many hot rod and custom YouTube channels like Mike Bellows from Bellows Custom is
man, we've gotten like, I don't know if people do it on other channels, but they do it. I apologize for interrupting, but the Bellows is like on the Merc. It's like we get 1,000 comments on every video. Oh, you guys got to check out Bellows Custom. That guy does good work. He chops a lot of tops. Like, I know who he is. Like,
yes,
I'm on the internet. I get like he's awesome. Like, how do I miss these people? So it always makes me wonder. Does like Bellows get these like comments? It's like, oh, IronTrap, you got to check them out. They're chopping a car.
I'm sure they do. They have to.
And it's like we're aware of each other.
Yes.
Most people are. I can't say that like I watch every one of his videos, but like I follow him on social media. The stuff he does is very cool. He builds really cool cars, and it's like we get all those things, and it's like, but yeah, he's
So that, and I mean, just like we're sitting in the office right now. There's 2 gigantic bookshelves filled with magazines.
Yep.
So like you don't have to go on the internet to find the inspiration. You could sit down and look through countless old books and magazines to find like the best reference photos. And a lot of the photos in your phone are photographs of old magazines.
Yeah, I go through sometimes, like in the wintertime especially, I'll just be like, let me look at 1959 to 1960 rotting and restyling. And I'll get my whole little like shelf of them or whatever, little booklet of them out, and I'll bring them in the house, and then every night I'll read 1 or 2 issues, and then you see a car that maybe you didn't notice before or whatever, and I'll take a photo of it and keep it in my phone. And
what were you looking through the other day that you found there's a 34 Cabriolet from the Autorama?
Oh, I have a book somebody sent us, I think, that is like the history of Detroit hot rodding.
Oh, okay.
And there was a bunch of
I saw that on the coffee table.
Yeah, there's a couple
table.
There's a couple. First 2 or 3 chapters are about the first Autorama, Detroit Autorama, and then there's also about the early days of the first Detroit hot rod clubs. So
okay.
There was a photo in there from one of the first Autoramas, but yeah, it's like I just pick a book off the shelf and I go, that would be cool. Let me look at that, and it's like pretty neat to look through there, and you get inspired, or I see a car in the background that I didn't notice, and it's like, oh, that's pretty cool.
And if you want to find some inspiration outside of social media, the Jalopy Journals, if you haven't gone to it, it is probably the only forum still active out there, because everyone's basically gone away from forums. But there's a lot of guys that don't post on social media that post on Jalopy Journal, and it is filled with great
Ford Barn too.
Barn, yeah. But photo threads on the ham.
Oh yeah, amazing.
There's like threads with 10,000 posts on it. They're photos from the 50s, 60s, drag race photos, whatever you're into from back in the day. There's a photo thread with 1 million inspirational photos that you can look at.
Yeah, and I go through those a lot. There's a lot of
if you watch any of our videos from like Hot Rodding 101 series, 90% of the photos I take from there, because it's just filled with so many good photos to use.
Yeah, so that forum's really good to get involved in and support them as much as you can. Buy a T-shirt or
and there's a lot of guys that update like proper build threads on there. I don't know have you updated any of the ones?
I haven't updated, but I had a bunch of build threads on
Pagoda City Coupe.
Yeah, and I think I did one on the T when I was working on it. But nowadays it's hard to update 17 different
Yeah.
things. I'm still active on there. Like I go on and respond to things or help people out if I can in comments and different stuff. But I don't do actual build threads as much. I always loved forum build threads. It's really
I
it's like a diary. I used to treat it like where you're like, all right, here's what I got done in the past 2 days, and
Yeah.
and if you watch how we shoot our videos, I literally shoot our video. We shoot our videos the same way for our project updates. It's more like here's what I'm hoping to get done. Here's what I got done. Here's what we found.
It's a long form build thread,
Yeah,
essentially.
exactly, and it's kind of neat because you're also talking about the thought process of building a car, or, the trials and tribulations. So that's what's helpful. But yeah, that Jalopy Journal is good because you can just go in and bury yourself in a photo thread or a build thread, and
Yeah, I find myself stuck. I'll be looking for like photos for one of the videos, and I'll be like, "Oh, look, this build thread got updated." And you go through and you start looking through it, and it's like 30 minutes later. I'm like, "I didn't get any work done. I gotta get back to editing."
And I look at, there's some people I follow on social media that do, the types of cars or whatever, and I'll go on their personal profile or shop page, and I'll just scroll through and look at some of the work they're done, even if I've seen the photos before, and it gets me inspired.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, that's cool. And like Sledge is Kevin Sledge out in California. He chops a lot of these 3940 Mercs. That's kind of like his thing. It's become, it seems, and he's doing tons of those cars. Built some very traditional, cars for people and himself. So I go back on his and look at photos because I think he does a good job of recreating the way they were chopped back in the day. He has a really good job at that. And so I go back and look at some of his photos and cars he's done, and it's just cool to see, just give you inspiration. So just looking at people's work, whether you're going to use how they do things or you're just going to use, the bitching cars that they're built as an inspiration to be like, oh man, I can't wait to work on mine to, make it look like that or whatever. So that's a good one. And then, also tying that all in is going to some of these events during the winter. If you're able to travel, like the Grand National Roadster Show, we can tie this all into photos. What's better than photos is real life. So inspiration for me big time over the past, 10, 15 years has been going to Grand National or going to some sort of winter show. Grand National seems to be the best for us.
Yeah.
Going to a place that's warmer than we are.
Or Detroit Autorama.
Autorama's a good one, yeah, for sure. And going and seeing a high concentration of good stuff. So Grand National Roadster Show is just great because there's, like you talked about, there's so many open houses. But,
yeah.
We were just discussing today, Grand National, they do, one of the buildings is a feature building. And every year it rotates on whatever the feature is. And not every year is maybe...
Yeah, last year wasn't that great because it was
For us.
For us, it was pro touring.
Yeah.
It's mostly just 70s and 80s muscle car, drag car stuff. But this coming year is going to be...
Yeah, it's the 75th anniversary, so they're doing... I think they're bringing together a lot of, Amber winners and also just, feature cars that were throughout the years. So, that building, is going to have a lot of historic...
And that was
cool stuff.
The first year that we went. It was
Model A's.
Model A's.
Yeah, I guess it was was it the 100th anniversary or not?
No,
90th.
Might have been because we were out there in 19, the first time we went out.
So yeah, it might have been the. Well, it was. Yeah, it might have been the 90th anniversary of Model A.
I don't remember.
I don't remember what the significance was. There was some sort of thing with Model A's. I don't remember. But they just did a room of historic or most important Model A hot rods over over history, and there was just some stuff that hasn't been out in years or stuff that is in private collections.
Previous Amber winners.
Yeah, so this year will be the same way. So I'm super excited because you go in the main hall and you see all these cars that are competing for the Amber or for Sloan Acres, the new thing that's non-roadsters, basically. Seeing all that stuff in the main hall, all the top hot rod shops in the country, specifically California, as mostly in there, they're all in there, and they have like cars in bare metal. You can see their work. Like literally, these cars don't have fences around them. You can walk up to these cars and crawl under them and look at them, and don't open the doors, don't lean on them. But like, don't feel like IronTrap told me I could just sit in this car.
Yeah.
No, you can't. But you can look at them up close. Grand National or the amber cars usually are roped off.
Yeah, they're a little tougher to look at.
But sometimes I found if the owners are there and you get talking to them, a lot of times some of those cars are built by just regular people.
Yeah.
Or owned by regular people. They're a lot of times if you get talking to them and you don't seem like an idiot, they'll let you like come in and like kind of look under it. Some of them, I can't say all of them, but like, so that's really cool to like walk up on really high level work in the main hall, but also in the feature, all the other halls, like walk in and be like, I can see this car.
That's the only thing I dislike about the, what's the one with usually has mostly traditional hot rods. I can't think of the name of the building.
Oh, the Suede Palace.
That's the only thing I dislike about it.
Yeah, that's true.
You can't. They have the cars in groupings of 9 usually. So like the outside view you can see, but they're like you can't see the back of some of the car. It's tough. It's like the car in the middle is the one I want to look at.
Yeah,
I can't get close to it to look at it.
Yeah, that is true. It's hard to take photos of them.
Yeah.
I don't know why they do it in that hall versus other ones. So yeah, that is a little harder sometimes, but still, you're still able to get up pretty close to them. I know.
Same thing as you said with the amber cars. All the owners are usually in the Suede Palace. You talk to the person, they might.
Yeah, especially in the Suede Palace, because all those people, 90% of them. I shouldn't say that because Suede Palace has changed a little bit over the years with some higher end builders sneaking their stuff in. But Suede Palace has always seemed to be like it's the normal hot rodder, the down and dirty type hot rodder, average guy type stuff. But so those people are usually more than friendly and don't have attitudes. But it's been really cool to see some of that stuff. We were talking about the sledge. He had one of the Bergen Merc, which is actually out of Jersey, oddly enough. And hopefully I said his last name correctly. But that Merc was 2020 when we went.
Yeah.
That car was on display with the roof, or back half of the roof was in bare metal. So that for me, I still have photos on my phone. I took photos of that car.
Literally just showed them to me the other day.
Yeah, so you could see how he welded it together and where it was welded. And I really like that stuff. I nerd out over that like crazy. Looking at a car that's in bare metal, seeing how they cut it or where they welded it or how they made the pieces for someone that does the work is really fascinating to me. So even the real high-end builds, it's like fun to be like, holy shit, that guy made that whole quarter.
Yeah, there's no weld scenes.
You're like, what the hell? So it's cool to see that because I could see how he cut it, where he cut it, the good, bad, ugly of work, which not saying anyone's work is bad, but like you see where, okay, that was a difficult spot to make or weld or marry up. When I do mine, I got to keep that in mind because, it's going to be hard. Mm-hmm. So that stuff's really fun. So if you can make it out to, Detroit Anorama, Grand National Roadster Show, any of those types of shows in the winter time, or
even in the summertime,
Yeah.
You go to the LA Roadster Show or any of the local shows in the
I like going to non-local shows personally because it's cars that I don't see all the time or builders.
But if you go to a local show with a different thought process of looking at more of the details than just the overall car, you can help get a lot more inspiration or take inspiration or photos to use for, an idea. If you're looking at more of just the car in detail and not just walking down the road real fast as an overall car, you might start noticing little things of local cars that you just never looked at before because you've seen that car every summer for 15 years.
I guess you could expanding on the car show thing, museums.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but it's tough because sometimes museums...
Well, if you get like the Peterson...
Oh yeah, they have a bunch of amber cars. Yeah,
they have a bunch of hot rods in there, and if you pay for the basement ticket, you can go down and see some pretty cool hot rods they have in their collection. And you can see those cars, and that's what I do in those museum settings. I take photos of how's the shock mount made on this historic car, or how's this or how's that. And it's like those are the details in these old magazines you can't see. Like you could see like, oh, that car looked cool. It ran those hubcaps. you can read the description. Oh, it ran this rear.
Yeah.
But like you can't see how they made the shock link or what did they do to make the wishbone, get it up over the tie rod or whatever. There's all that little stuff, and that's.
And I guess the museum thing ties in too, because we do it at the Gilmore. You look at all the high-end cars.
Oh yeah,
just the high-end brands, and just looking at how they did things, and that's how Hot Rodders have been doing that forever. You take inspiration from those very high-end builds, or just looking at the gauge panels, like, oh, that thing would look killer in a 32. I gotta take a photo of it and remember when I'm at Hershey. You look for that
those
specific
gauges.
panel.
Yeah. I've done that before. You have like you keep that in the back of your head. You're like, whoa, that's super cool. And then you get into a swap meet setting in that gauge because most people don't look at a Duesenberg or look at a whatever. The average guy, you don't keep in your head what a gauge for an Auburn looks like necessarily. A lot of Auburn's probably a poor choice, but Pierce Arrow, or Packard. Sometimes when the gauge is just all alone by itself and not in its gauge panel, you're like, ooh, that's a Packard gauge. Let me buy that because it's cheap and piece of gauges together. So that's a good, that's a broad one, but the inspiration photos show
inspiration's out there. You just have to change the way that you look at things a lot of times. Like it's not necessarily so broad and big. Sometimes it's just little things. You're like, oh, that's
hyper focus.
There's so many photos on his phone of like from when we were in California, 2019. It's just a zoomed in photo of like some of the old Amber cars of like how they did the shocks. Like, where did you take this? You're like, oh, that was from when we were at Grand National 7 years ago. I took a photo of just the shock on this one car.
Yeah, it's like just the roll pan on the back, and you can't even see the rest of the car. I know what the car is. Nobody else would, but it's like the roll pan because I like the way that they rolled that underneath. And if I ever do one, I want to do it similar. And the Eddie Dye Roadster was one that I was amazing. That was one of the cars that seeing that car in person was as good or better than I had hoped versus some of these old historic cars. See, I'm like, it looked better in the magazines. But that car, seeing that car, I spent like we were in that hall. I missed a lot of the Model A's in that hall because I just sat at that car.
That's purple, right? The Eddie Dye one. What's the blue one? Is that the Nycamp Roadster? Nycomp Roadster?
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
Because both of them were sitting next to each other, I believe. Yeah. It's just so much awesomeness between the two of those roadsters.
So staring at those cars, it was like I was taking a ton of detail photos of different things, the interior or whatever, just because it was, again, in the old magazines and books, black and white photos, you didn't get that level of detail. So seeing those cars in person was really, really cool. And being from the East Coast, like some of the cars you see in these different halls at Grand National and bigger shows, people in California get it spoiled because some of those cars, they've been out and about and around for years. That guy, some of these cars, the guys drove to LA Roadster Show for many, many years. So you saw it around. It wasn't a surprise. It's just now the car's restored or now somebody famous or some big collection owns it and they cleaned it up and put it on display. But like, it was around. So for us seeing those cars and being younger, not being around in the 70s to see those cars running around still, so for us being able to see them in person is crazy. So now I'm getting all excited for Grand National.
Yeah, I've been excited for now that it's miserable and cold outside. I'm like, we got to go to California in a couple months.
Yeah, I'm excited for that show. So that's gonna be really cool. So that was number 4. Number 5 is be a crazy person.
Yes.
Juggle 18 projects at once like we like to do.
Yes, it's the only way to stay organized and motivated.
At the same time, we were talking ahead of this podcast. I said, you have to be, the insanity makes me sane.
Yes.
It's just but no, like what the real, tip for that is having more than one thing to work on. It doesn't have to be project cars. I found is motivating. So when we were talking ahead of the podcast, the one thing I said was like, if you like to, or maybe you want to take up pinstriping or sign painting. So in between working on your project car and you're stuck or you're not feeling motivated, go sit down and practice sign painting or pinstriping or, whatever that thing is, you can do. TIG weld. Say you work on cars and you want to learn how to TIG weld. Sit down and practice TIG welding for a day or two instead of working on your car.
Yeah.
It's helpful for me. I just have a lot of project cars, so that's why I bounce around. Sometimes I get not as motivated on a car, so I step away for a month or a year or a couple years, whatever, and you come back to it. But that's always helped me stay motivated is you get excited on a car again. Every time we pull one of the cars in to start working on them again, it's like that, falling in love at first sight type thing again. So that, I don't know. I don't know if there's, I'm not saying find another hobby, but
I mean, it could be. I mean, finding another hobby to help distract you from the mental burden sometimes. Like some of these cars, you know, it's a monumental task to get them back on the road. So maybe distracting your mind from thinking about it is the best way to remotivate you to get back into it.
Yeah. That doesn't mean you avoid the car for 25, 50 years.
The Sweetheart Roadster is currently
I've been working on it. I pick away at it.
I know. Just
I do.
bust your balls.
But, like, just sometimes, for me, I struggle with not being happy with always wanting. I think I progressed so quickly and so much over the years. Anything, I always struggle with if I don't finish a car in a year or so, I want to redo stuff. And that's what the Sweetheart Roadster, a lot of that is I've been redoing a lot of stuff I don't like or that I probably would have left alone 10 years ago. And now I'm like, oh, man. Lately, I've been wanting to remake the doors. Literally last night I was thinking how I could cut the door skin off because the passenger door I dented after I hemmed the door skin. I leaned on the door and I put a dent in the body line and I tried to I stud gunned it out, but it's still got a wave to the door. It pisses me off. So I kind of want to cut the whole door skin off and remake it again from scratch.
Just don't take a year between making the second one.
No. So that's the part that I definitely struggle with long-term projects like that. I don't struggle with the getting stuff done. So if it's a car like a Survivor car, I don't struggle with that. But it's like when I'm making panels from scratch or a whole car from scratch, you're like my skill level has gone up. So I don't like how I made something. And I've remade so much stuff on the Sweetheart Roadster, changed how I did it. Because
you even just did it on the Mercury.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been 2 panels, I think, that you redone. Or just one?
Just one.
Just one.
That they redid. But yeah, I mean, that's...
Previous Matt wouldn't have done that. You would have just kind of...
I would have worked with it and just worked around it. Yeah. And but I've gotten quicker over the years. So like in that instance, I knew that remaking that panel from scratch and welding it back in was going to be quicker and better than me trying to fix what I didn't like about the old panel. And it still was never going to be as nice as if I remade it. So getting over that mental block of being okay with cutting your work out and making it again is difficult, but it's huge. I don't think any builder builds a car first time. Every piece on the car first time is
There's
perfect.
always some oopsies.
Yeah, and you machine apart, and maybe it's not as good as you would hope, or tolerances aren't what you want. You got to throw it in the trash and start over. That's just how it goes. So, juggling some different projects or ideas, or sometimes it's like, I'm not saying you have to juggle, juggling a project doesn't mean you have to do like me and have, whole cars. Sometimes it's just like, maybe you're working on a custom and you'd like to build a Model A hot rod someday. Maybe you just have a frame sitting in the garage and that's it. There's no body. And you just put the frame and you wire wheel the frame and work on the frame that day because you're struggling with the body filler on the custom, whatever it is, like stepping away and working something else and getting your brain off of that.
And honestly, the way that you do projects is very similar to that. It's, you work on a hot rod, then you work on more of a custom, then back to a hot rod, and have always kind of done that bounce back and forth.
Yeah, I just I want to build so many cars that it's just like I get so excited about the next step on the next one. I'm really psyched on customs right now because I'm working on the Mercury. So I'm like, the Lincoln, I've been daydreaming about the Lincoln really big time lately. And we got, maybe also because we just got an engine I think I'm going to use in it. We got a 390 Cadillac, and I made the decision I'm going to pull the Flathead 12 out and put the Caddy in. with the overdrive and whatever. So it's got my brain thinking, and I'm like, now I'm thinking about all the stuff I'd like to do to it. So if we're giving away the end of the movie, I'm going to be cutting the Lincoln up and customizing it.
We'll just talk about it now. So when it happens in 2 years, no one gives a shit.
Yeah. So I already have some parts set aside and kind of have some ideas.
This one won't take 2 years. I'm sure it'll get modified much sooner than.
Yeah, well, that car is rough, so like rough looking. So whereas the Mercury was just like mechanical stuff, and it was a nice car, and we just drove it.
Yeah.
The Lincoln is not nice to look at, so it's like we're gonna kind of do the mechanical stuff and the custom work all at the same time. And I may SCT or strip the car down to bare metal and put it in an epoxy primer and just drive it in primer and then work on it as we go.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of major customization metal working jobs I want to do on that car to make it look better. Kind of like the roof on the Mercury, like a Lincoln Continental. There's a major part of that car that does not look good, that if you make it look, fix it, adjust it.
It's in the name.
It's in the name. It'll make the car way better. So that's kind of the plan for that car. So I've been like, that's been like helping me even with the Mercury, like keep motivated, because I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to do that. That's going to be really cool. And, looking at some inspiration photos and stuff. So it's pretty exciting. That's how I stay motivated.
Yeah. Hopefully this podcast has helped you.
Maybe it'll motivate you. This podcast will motivate you. But we just thought we'd talk about some of this stuff. This is some of the it's stuff that a lot of our friends talk to, and I have friends that have stalled projects for many years, or they just get, life happens. And sometimes some of these things are what helps me stay motivated, keep moving along. And
I mean, even you are guilty of stalled projects. I mean, the pile house, the pickup truck.
Yeah.
That's a stalled project.
That was a project I think my focus changed. I was building that truck in a style or way that after a handful of years I decided I was more into the fully traditional quote unquote or nostalgic stuff, where that was more like what was that truck? Street Trucks was a magazine, I think it was called, that was under the Hot Rod Hot Rod umbrella. But like that was one where it was like you had an old truck and you put a 350 or a modern engine in it, you bagged it, slammed it, chopped it, did all the stuff, but it was more of like it was like a street rod truck, I would call it. And that's how I was building it. And as I was doing all of that, I started really finding myself wanting to do nostalgia stuff specifically. And that was just taste changing. And we meet guys that do that. They're like, actually our customer and friend, Rick.
Oh yeah.
He was just over visiting the other day, and he's like, he's only been into the traditional or nostalgia stuff for
a couple of years,
2 to 3 years, whatever, 4 years. But man, is he in deep now? He's like just full. But he built this really kick-ass patina 50 Chevy
Dodge pickup.
Oh, it's a Dodge? I thought it was a Chevy.
No, it's a Dodge pickup with a Hemi in it.
With a modern Hemi engine in it, and it like hauls ass, has air conditioning, modern engine. I think it's bagged.
Yeah.
And it's like he was just over the other day. He's like, man, I got to sell that thing. I don't even like that truck anymore. It's like because he found this stuff and same kind of idea. He's like so into drag. He's gotten into the nostalgia drag racing and circle track and flatheads, and he's got a front engine dragster with that blown. Is it blown Hemi? Or
it's a blown 392 Hemi.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he's in full.
He's gotten in deep, and he's over here. Same thing as us. He's talking about like 18 other projects he wants to build.
I got too much shit. I got to focus on projects.
Yeah, it's like the same story we're telling each other, but like that was a good example. And we meet a lot of people like that. They were building a muscle car, a Camaro, and then they found 32 Roadsters, and all of a sudden they don't care about the Camaro. They want to build, this stuff, or vice versa. It happens, whatever. So it's not a bad thing to have a bunch of different types of cars. That's the other way. Instead of building a hot rod and a custom, maybe you have a muscle car and a custom you're building.
Or a chopper and a hot rod.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of buddies that they bounce between both worlds, and they intermingle. They're also very separate at the same time.
Yeah, I try not to. Motorcycles are.
You got enough headaches.
Yeah, that's a slippery slope.
Yes.
I could totally see myself going down some
Especially with you with vintage stuff. That's a very expensive slippery slope.
and rare.
Yeah.
That's a
Oh my
whole
God.
that's a spiral out of control
Yeah.
thing. If I got in
That has you written all
I know it
over
does. That's why I've resisted. I have not bought some vintage motorcycle projects that we were standing in a garage looking at an old Harley at a place where we sold a guy a vehicle, and he had like a Project Harley, and I was like, man, it's like a little, like, I guess it was like a bar hopper type bike, loud, fast, just bare bones, badass. And I'm like, this thing is awesome.
We almost put it in the trailer.
We almost did it. And honestly, the only reason we didn't was because it was like 4 motorcycles back, and it was late at night.
If it would have been at the front of the garage, it definitely would have been in the trailer.
I'd already have it.
Yep.
Yeah. It'd be sitting here getting ridden like twice a year.
Yep.
Like a lot of stuff. So anyways, that was our podcast on the topic. It's been a lot of fun, and hopefully some of these topics you guys can relate to.
Yeah.
And if you have any ideas for future podcasts, drop us an email, irontrapgarage@gmail.com, and make sure you subscribe on all formats,
Yes.
Spotify, Apple Music, all that stuff.
Yep.
Because we appreciate it. So thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you next time.
See you.
See ya.